Welcome to my talk about dance photography. Apologies for the sticky start. I live in Derbyshire in the countryside, and the Wi-Fi is hugely problematic and variable. At the moment, I'm hotspotting off my phone, so anything could happen, but I'll do my best. I'm going to take questions at the end, but if you have anything burning that comes up as you go along, please feel free to type it in. And if I can manage to look at the questions and the presentation all together, then I'll do so. Right, so today I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour about my dance photography, and if we've got time, a little bit of a chat about some of my other work as well. I suppose that I would say I create illusions. We all do as photographers. And today I'm going to show you some different kinds of illusions that I make. So dance photography then, if I say dance photography, most people think of classical ballet. That's the thing that comes into their heads. But this is a little bit unusual because it's actually an all-male company called Ballet de Trocadero. But there are many different kinds of dance. You know, ballet is just one. And here we have contemporary dance. This is a dancer called Gary Clark. If you're in North America, you would call this modern dance. And then we have African dance. This is an award-winning dance company with formed of people with disabilities and non-disabilities. And this is a company called Janice Parker. There are many kinds of dance, but whatever dance I'm photographing, there's always something in common, and that is that they all need promotional material. They all need images. So the most common kind of promotional photography that I do is what's called production shots. Production shots are made in a theatre, usually in a theatre, in a dress rehearsal or a tech rehearsal, without an audience, mostly. And I normally have a very short time. I haven't seen the piece before. I have to go in, I have to grab whatever I can, and it goes out to press usually the next day and social media within hours often. So what am I looking for then when I make a production shot? Well, that varies enormously on the kind of dance that I'm photographing. For some pieces, it's the raw energy and the power of the piece, as it is in this one. And here again, it's about dynamism, it's about energy. And here, you know, we have a photograph of a group of dancers. Now, when you have a group of dancers all moving around in low light, it can cause quite a few issues, as I'm sure some of you are aware, anyone who's shot in a theatre before. But depending on the kind of light and the amount of light, you know, you'll get very different results. So this next picture here, the quality of the light was much more, it was much brighter. It was a different color light. That orange light is very difficult to work with. So capturing these moments when you're working with a lot of dancers moving around, low light, can be a bit of a challenge. But dance photography isn't always about some lead, and some dynamic in these two pieces. I'd be waiting a long time. What I'm looking for is the character. Sometimes on a stage, we have dancers that are naked. Dance varies enormously, as does photography, you know, in what I'm going to be shooting. And shooting naked subjects isn't always easy. You have all of the challenges of dance, but then you've got people without clothes on, which Sometimes dance isn't even dance. I'm making a promotional image or I'm looking at the visual. Yeah. So in a promotional image, I'm trying to capture the essence what the about. So whether that's dynamic or whether storytelling, but I'm actually translating 3 dimensions into 2, and I'm trying to create something that will make people want to go and see that show. So in this instance, it's the actual light visual that is rather than the movement, the dance itself. Sometimes it's about the first tricks, or the amazing performances, athleticism of the piece. And when I photographing these things, as I said earlier, don't really have any to what's going to happen. I'm often running around the stage quite frantically, trying to capture moments, and inevitably, sometimes when I'm at one side of the stage, something will happen, and I'm running back and I'm running forward. I sometimes think I get just as much a workout as the dancers do. If I'm really lucky, I occasionally get a little bit of time at the end of a shoot, at the end of the dance piece, to make some still images. And this is rare, but it's great when I can, because it means that when I'm shooting the work itself, I'm thinking all the way through. I'm looking for moments that I can then set up at the end. And the advantage with being able to set things up is that you can alter them slightly. So in this particular shot, I noticed this moment in the piece, but when I noticed it in the piece, the main dancer, the female, was actually looking down into the bucket. Now that worked very well in the movement piece in 3 dimensions. 2 dimensions as an image, it wouldn't work. And so those of you out there, photographers, most of you, I guess, would understand that by rearranging that, it would make it a much more visual image. I'm just pressing my clicker. Nothing's happened. Got a delay. So not all dance then in theatres. This one was what we call an installation. It was in Nottingham Contemporary Art Gallery. And this was a piece where 2 dancers were tied together in black cloth, and they just improvised by moving around the space for about 2 hours. Now, this was great for me because it meant I really had time to experiment and play, which I don't normally have when it's a production shots. Again, a different kind of promotional image. This Christmas scene was made in August in Edinburgh, funnily enough, where I was working at the Edinburgh Festival, where I do a lot of work, and I've really, really missed it this year. But the dancer Leonie, the lady in green on top, she rang me up. They were performing at the festival, and she said, Maria, my has just phoned, and they want a promotional Christmas image by next week. Is there something you can do? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure we can do something. But it was August, so how are we going to make this happen? Well, as it happens, if you go to a pound shop, in most parts of the country, they will sell all kinds of stuff, including Christmas things in August. So we stocked up with loads of tack, went back to the amazing flats that they were staying in Edinburgh's New Town, and constructed this crazy scene, which is a kind that represents what they do, because they're very wacky and outraged. So it worked very well to promote them. My clicker's not working again. See? Okay. These next 2 images, I'm going to show you the next one. We can talk about it. Are taken outside in Leith. Now, these are beautiful tango dancers, absolutely stunning. But how do you make tango sultry and seductive and when you're in leaf stocks. Well, it's very attractive, and imagination, a little bit of light, and again, a different kind of dance. This was an aerial performance at a stately home called Chatsworth House in Derbyshire. Some of you may have heard of it. And this was an event where a light show was projected onto the side of the house. And at the end of the light show, this huge crane, this aerial dance, a hoop on a crane, kind of was levered into position in front of the house. And all of these fireworks burst out. And that was the grand finale. And when I was asked to do this job, they said, "Oh, we'd like you to photograph all of the light projections on the house, and then right at the end there'll be this moment when this out and there's a big hoop, and that's the shot where all the fireworks come out." Oh, okay, right, fine, I'll do my best. And it's a bit stressful because there's no dress rehearsal with something with fireworks. It's too expensive. You're shooting live on the day, and I was positioned for photographing the house. All of a sudden, I was clicking away. I came out and had to stand because I was running up the field, got into them, click, click, click. Managed to get this picture because she was only there for a matter of, a few seconds really. And then the whole performance ended. Everything stopped. The lights came on, and something in me just went, "A minute, hang on a minute." One of those moments. And I just waited, and then this happened. So the combination of the scene, which ended up to be the image that they used mostly for the promotion. So sometimes what people think they want isn't always what they're having, or what even work best. I think with photography, I'm sure you'll agree that it's the best shots are a kind of combination of kind of knowing what you're doing and ideas, but those happy accidents or those lucky moments you could never pause. So again, different kind of this was made studio, fairly standard studio setting. And this piece I particularly love because it was made for a dance company, and it's called Within This Dust. It's about the tragedy of 9/11. And the dance company that made this piece, actually the very first dance company to perform at Ground Zero. They performed this piece in the US several times, maybe half a dozen times, and it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute. And for me, just being a tiny, tiny part of that, is really lovely. So things are being very slow with the delay here. Okay, yes. So the Edinburgh Festival up on a promotion. So sometimes an image that you make will take on a different life. You start off as making an image to promote one thing, and then it becomes something entirely different. The same thing happened for this picture. I have to say, when I show this picture, the divide in the audience thinks condom dancer's face photoshopped, thinks it wasn't. Photoshop for me is about realizing an image that I want to make, and I don't really mind. But having said that, there was no Photoshop. This condom was not photoshopped in this picture. It was one of those happy accidents that I was telling you about earlier, when you set things up, you try things, you experiment, you plan, and something magical will happen. And I lovely. Right, yes. So I was saying about pictures earlier that get a different life, take on another life. And this was another example. It started off as a promotional image for a dance company, but it ended up headlining an exhibition in Belgium of dance photography. So you never quite know when you make a picture what's going to happen to it. Um, in the old days, before everyone was a photographer, I used to be invited in to work with dance companies in rehearsals because they'd often use imagery for funding applications and reports and that kind of thing. And this was great. So I'd go along and I'd just be able to experiment and play. And obviously, these are a different kind of look and feel to dance photography, to the shiny promotional images. And what I liked about these was just that sense of experimentation and rawness. And as a photographer, I'm sure we're all the same, but I really like to try and do something a little bit different. And when you've been in, lots and lots of studios doing, you're limited with what you can do. Um, and so here I was in a studio one day and I was just looking for something different. And I noticed that in there was a patch of light falling on the floor of the dance studio. And as the dancers were moving around, their reflections were being on in. And so I spent a long time photographing just a patch of floor. I have a great belief that whenever possible, it's really not something you can with an image. Wants to just see the set of try and find there for you. I think this might be a good time to mention. Zappa's being very slow. I don't know what you can see at that end. This might be a good time to mention that my partner and I run photography workshops. I run the dance workshops, and together we run lots of other workshops. And if you are interested at all in dance photography, we're hoping to get some up and running again this autumn. All of the details are on my website, and we do studio lighting and theatre and location all together on the same day. On the same weekend. So it's an amazing weekend, and people really enjoy it. So if dance photography is your thing, please do have a look out for that.